The sky above the ruined colony world was always covered in smoke. The air smelled of rust, oil, and fire. Metal mountains of broken ships and shattered machines stretched across the horizon. It was a graveyard of technology, where scavengers searched day and night for anything they could sell. Among them was Marcus, a human survivor who had made the dump his home. Marcus was not rich, not powerful. He was just a man who learned how to live among ruins. Every morning he walked through the piles of scrap with his old scanner, looking for parts to trade. His life was simple and lonely, until the day he found something that would change his future forever. It began with a sound, a weak cry hidden under the noise of shifting metal. At first Marcus thought it was just the wind, but then he heard it again, softer, almost broken. He followed the sound deeper into the dump, pushing aside sheets of steel and climbing over rusted engines. His heart beat faster as the cry grew clearer. Finally he found her. She was small, curled between two broken machines. Her skin glowed faintly purple under the dim light. Her silver hair was tangled and covered in dust. Her large eyes, glowing faintly blue, stared at him in fear. She was not human. She was alien, young, and trembling. Her clothes were torn, her body bruised. She looked like she had been thrown away like garbage. Marcus froze. For a moment he wondered if it was a trap. Sometimes gangs used children or weak ones to lure scavengers. But when he looked closer, he saw the truth. Her thin arms hugged her knees tightly. Her lips trembled as she whispered something in a language he did not understand. She was hurt, abandoned, and completely alone. His first thought was to walk away. Taking in an alien child could bring danger. Her people might come looking for her, or scavengers might try to kill him for protecting her. In the dump, mercy was a weakness that could get a man killed. But something in her eyes stopped him. There was fear, yes, but also hope. As if she could not believe someone had found her, Marcus sighed. He bent down slowly, showing his empty hands. "Easy," he whispered, though he knew she might not understand. "I'm not here to hurt you." She flinched as he reached out. Her body shook violently. But when he gently touched her arm, she did not pull away. Her skin was cold. Too cold. Marcus realized she might not survive another night out here. He looked around quickly. The dump was quiet, but he knew scavengers could appear any time. If they saw her, they would sell her to the highest bidder. He clenched his jaw. He could leave her and stay safe, or he could take her and risk everything. For a long moment, Marcus stood frozen. His mind screamed for logic, but his heart whispered something else. He had seen many strange things in this galaxy, but he had never seen eyes like hers. They begged for life, for someone to care. He made his choice. Marcus lifted her carefully into his arms. She was lighter than he expected. Her head rested weakly against his chest. Her lips parted as if she wanted to speak, but only a faint sound came out. He whispered, "You're safe now." Though he was not sure it was true, the walk back to his shelter felt longer than ever. Every sound made him tense. Every shadow felt like a threat. He kept glancing down at her, wondering who she was, why she had been abandoned, and why fate had brought her into his hands. When he reached his small shack built from scrap metal and ship parts, he laid her gently on the old cot. He gave her water, and she drank greedily, her hands trembling. Marcus found some old fabric and wrapped it around her to keep her warm. She looked at him, her glowing eyes filled with confusion and something else, trust. Marcus sat beside her, silent. He had no answers, only questions, but deep inside, he knew this was no accident. The dump had taken many things from him, but now it had given him something unexpected, a fragile life to protect. That night, as the winds howled through the scrap mountains, Marcus could not sleep. He kept watching her, listening to her soft breathing in the darkness. He whispered to himself, "What have I done?" He knew that taking her in would change everything. It would bring danger, struggle, and pain, but as he looked at her again, he also knew one more thing. He could not abandon her, not now, not ever. And so began the story of Marcus and the alien girl. A bond born in the ruins, stronger than fear, stronger than fate. The night was long. Marcus sat awake in his small shelter, listening to the soft breathing of the alien girl lying on the cot. The scrap dump outside groaned and shifted with the wind, but inside the little shack there was silence. His thoughts refused to rest. He had taken in someone he did not know, someone who could bring danger, yet when he looked at her, he felt he had done the only thing his heart would allow. Morning came with a dull red glow. Marcus stirred a pot of thin soup over a cracked heat coil. The girl's eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly blue in the dim light. She looked around with fear and confusion, her hands clutching the blanket tightly. Marcus moved carefully, not wanting to startle her. He set a bowl beside her and stepped back. "Eat," he said softly, his voice calm. She hesitated. Her thin fingers reached for the bowl. She sniffed the steam, then sipped. Her lips trembled, but she swallowed quickly. The hunger in her eyes was clear. Marcus watched in silence, relief filling him as she finished every drop. For hours she said nothing. She only looked at him with suspicion. Her language was strange, broken sounds that Marcus could not understand. When he tried speaking, she tilted her head, her expression unreadable, but slowly, through gestures, pointing and patience, they began to form the smallest bridge of understanding. Marcus pointed at himself. "Marcus," he said, tapping his chest. She blinked, then whispered a word that sounded like Selah. Her voice was weak but carried a strange beauty. Marcus repeated it softly. "Selah." The girl gave a small nod. For the first time, there was a spark of trust in her glowing eyes. Days passed in this fragile rhythm. Marcus scavenged during the day, searching for parts to trade. At night, he returned with scraps of food, sharing everything he found. Selah grew stronger, the bruises on her skin fading, her fear slowly softening. She followed him around the shelter, watching with curiosity as he repaired machines and sorted through wires. Sometimes she tried to mimic him, clumsily connecting broken parts. Marcus smiled, patient with her mistakes. Yet danger was never far. Rumors spread quickly in the dump. Scavengers whispered about a strange light seen near Marcus's shelter. Some believed he had found valuable alien tech. Others thought he was hiding something. Marcus felt the stares whenever he traded in the market. He knew it was only a matter of time before questions turned into threats. One evening, as Marcus repaired a small drone, Selah sat quietly beside him. She touched the broken metal with her delicate fingers, then whispered a word he did not understand. To his shock, the machine's lights flickered for a brief moment. Marcus stared at her. Selah looked down quickly. Ashamed, Marcus realized then that she was not just a child abandoned by accident. She carried something, some power or knowledge her people had cast aside. That night, Selah finally spoke more than a word. Her voice was soft, broken, but Marcus understood fragments. She told him in halting gestures and words that she had been left in the dump because she was different, unwanted by her own kind. Her people saw her as flawed. But Marcus saw something else, strength hidden behind fragility. For the first time in years, Marcus felt a purpose. He was no longer just surviving. He was protecting someone who needed him. He looked at her, her glowing eyes staring back with both fear and hope. And he said quietly, "You're safe here." Selah did not understand all the words, but she understood his tone. She leaned closer, her head resting lightly on his arm. The bond between them was fragile, delicate like glass, but it was growing. Marcus knew the dump was dangerous, that keeping her hidden would not be easy, but he also knew he would not let her be taken. Not by scavengers, not by her own people, not by anyone. As the night deepened, the wind howled outside. Marcus looked at Selah sleeping peacefully for the first time since he found her. He whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning." His eyes narrowed as he listened to the distant sounds of footsteps echoing in the dump. Someone was searching. The world outside would not leave them in peace for long, but Marcus was ready. He had found something worth fighting for. The days in the dump became a rhythm of survival. Marcus scavenged from sunrise to sunset, while Selah stayed hidden in the shelter. Each night they shared food, soft words, and gestures that slowly built a bridge of trust. Marcus could see her. Strength returning, the bruises fading, her glow brighter. Yet behind her eyes was a silence he could not break. He knew she carried something heavy, a truth she was afraid to speak. One evening, as the wind screamed across the Junk Mountains, Marcus found Sayla sitting alone outside the shack. Her silver hair shimmered in the dim light of the moons. She stared at the endless piles of broken ships, her hands gripping her knees. Marcus sat beside her quietly. He did not ask at first, he only waited. Sometimes silence was the only way. To invite a voice, after a long time she whispered. Her voice was low and broken. Unwanted. The word hung in the air like smoke. Marcus turned his head. Sayla's glowing eyes shimmered with unshed tears. She repeated slowly, "My people cast me away." Her small hand touched her chest. Different. They say broken. Marcus clenched his fists. He felt anger rise inside him. Not at her, but at the thought of a people who could throw away their own child. He wanted to tell her she was not broken, but he stayed quiet, letting her speak. She looked at him, struggling with words. "I see things. I feel machines. They fear me." Her hands trembled as she pressed them to the ground. A faint hum filled the air. The broken drone beside them flickered with a soft light, though its power cell was long dead. Marcus stared in shock. His heart raced. He understood now. Her gift was not weakness. It was power. Sayla's voice cracked as she continued. "They call me Curse. They send me to die." She hugged her knees tighter, shaking. "Alone. Until you." Marcus felt a heavy knot in his chest. He reached out, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "You're not a curse," he said, his voice firm. "You're a miracle." Her eyes widened, glowing brighter. For a moment, she seemed unsure if she should believe him. Then her lips trembled into the smallest fragile smile. It was the first time Marcus had seen her smile since she arrived. But the shadow of her past was not just memory. It followed her in the days that came. Marcus noticed strangers in the market watching him more closely. Rough scavengers whispered behind his back. His trades became harder. Prices rose. Questions grew sharper. Someone had seen Sayla or sensed her presence. One night, as Marcus returned with food, he found the shack door slightly open. His heart leapt. He rushed inside. Sayla was there, but she was shaking, her eyes wide. "Men!" "Here," she whispered, pointing to the hills of scrap outside. Marcus froze. He listened carefully. In the distance he heard the crunch of footsteps. Slow and careful. Someone was searching. He moved quickly, dimming the lights, grabbing his old rifle from under the bed. He motioned for Sayla to stay quiet. Her small hands clutched the blanket, fear shining in her eyes. Marcus positioned himself at the doorway, peering into the dark dump. Shadows moved between the metal piles. Voices muttered. "They say he's hiding something. Alien tech, maybe," one voice whispered. Marcus's jaw tightened. He knew it was only a matter of time before scavengers or mercenaries discovered Sayla. Her people had thrown her away, but here she was still seen as valuable, not for who she was, but for what she could be sold for. Hours passed before the shadows faded. Marcus returned inside, his body tense. Sayla looked at him with fear. "They find me," she whispered. Marcus knelt beside her, gripping her hand. "Not while I'm alive," he said firmly. She looked at him, her eyes glistening. She believed him. That night, Sayla shared more of her past. Broken words and trembling. Hands painted a story. Her people had once been proud and powerful, but they feared change. They feared anything different. Sayla had been born with a connection to machines, an ability that terrified them. To keep their traditions pure, they had cast her out like trash. Marcus listened, his heart heavy. He saw her not as cursed but as gifted. He wondered how many others her people had thrown away, and how many miracles had been lost to fear. As the night stretched on, Marcus felt the truth settle deep inside him. Sayla was no longer just a girl he had saved from the dump. She was someone the galaxy had rejected, someone fragile yet extraordinary. And now she was under his care. The shadow of her past was close, darker, and more dangerous than ever. But Marcus swore. Time in the scrap dump passed slowly, but with every passing day Selah grew stronger. Her bruises faded, her thin body gained strength, and her eyes glowed brighter. She was no longer the broken child Marcus had found between piles of metal. She was learning, adapting, becoming someone new. Marcus noticed the changes each day. She began helping with small tasks, at first clumsy, but eager. She learned how to sort wires, how to identify useful parts, and even how to fix broken tools. Sometimes Marcus would watch in quiet wonder as her delicate hands touched a dead machine. And somehow the circuits flickered with life. Her strange gift was no curse. It was power at night, when the dump was silent except for the groan of shifting metal. Marcus and Selah sat by the dim fire inside the shack. He told her stories of Earth, of blue skies, oceans, and green forests she had never seen. Her eyes widened with amazement. She repeated the words slowly, trying to hold them in her memory. For her, Earth was not just a planet. It was a dream, a place where she imagined freedom. But their bond was not only in words, it was in silence too. Marcus would work on repairing a drone, and Selah would quietly sit beside him. Sometimes she would hum in her alien tongue, a sound soft and haunting. Marcus never asked her to stop. He liked the way it filled the empty nights. As months passed, Selah began to smile more. She laughed awkwardly when Marcus teased her about her messy hair, or her habit of stacking parts in strange towers. She teased him back in her broken human words, calling him old man. Even though Marcus was not old, he laughed too. The sound strange to him after so many years of loneliness. But outside their small world, danger grew. Rumors spread louder in the market. Scavengers whispered of a glow in Marcus's shack at night. Traders asked too many questions. Marcus felt eyes following him more than once. The bond he built with Selah gave him strength, but it also gave his enemies something to target. One evening, Marcus returned late with a heavy bag of scrap. He found Selah waiting at the door, worry written across her glowing face. She pointed to the hills, whispering, "Voices." Marcus tensed. He set down the bag and grabbed his rifle. Together they sat in silence, listening. The footsteps were distant but real. He knew others were circling closer. The next morning, Marcus began training Selah. He knew she was no longer the fragile child he had carried from the dump. If she stayed with him, she needed to learn how to protect herself. At first she resisted, shaking her head. "No fight," she said in her broken words. But Marcus placed the staff in her hands, looking at her with steady eyes. "To survive, we must fight." The training was slow but steady. Marcus taught her how to move, how to block, how to strike. Selah struggled, her hands trembling. But she learned quickly. Her alien strength, once hidden, began to show. Her movements became sharper, faster. Her gift with machines even seemed to flow into the weapon, making it hum faintly with energy. With each day, Marcus felt their bond grow deeper. He no longer thought of Selah as someone he had rescued. She was becoming his partner, his family. She filled the silence of his life with laughter, questions, and stubborn determination. He filled her world with patience, safety, and a sense of belonging she had never known. But the world outside did not rest. One night, as they shared a meal, a shadow moved outside the shack. Marcus rose quickly, rifle in hand. He stepped into the darkness, only to find a piece of metal stabbed into the ground. A mark, a warning, carved with alien symbols. Marcus recognized them from Selah's stories. They were from her people. When he showed it to her, Selah's face went pale. Her voice shook. "They know they come." Marcus's jaw tightened. He looked at her, his voice firm. "Then we'll be ready." That night neither of them slept. Marcus sharpened his old blades and checked his rifle again and again. Selah sat beside him, her glowing eyes wide but determined. For the first time, she did not look like a child. She looked like someone who had chosen to stand and fight. In the silence of the night, Marcus felt a strange calm. He had once lived only for himself, drifting through the ruins with no purpose. Now he had something to protect, someone to fight for, and Selah, once unwanted, had found someone who refused to abandon her. Their bond was fragile yet unbreakable, forged in trust, danger, and survival. But Marcus knew the true test was still to come. Her past was not gone, it was chasing them, and soon they would have to face it together.